How to Lie with Maps by Mark Monmonier. Chapter 1 Introduction. Not only is it easy to lie with maps, it's essential. To portray meaningful relationships for a complex, three-dimensional world on a flat sheet of paper or a video screen, a map must distort reality. As a scale model, the map must use symbols that almost always are proportionately much bigger or thicker than the features they represent. To avoid hiding critical information in a fog of detail, the map must offer a selective, incomplete view of reality. There is no escape from the cartographic paradox. To present a useful and truthful picture, an accurate map must tell white lies. Because most map users willingly tolerate white lies on maps, it's not difficult for maps also to tell more serious lies. Maps users generally are a trusting lot. They understand the need to distort geometry and suppress features, and they believe the cartographer really does know where to draw the line, figuratively as well as literally. As with many things beyond their full understanding, they readily entrust map-making to a priesthood of technically competent designers and drafters working for government agencies and commercial firms. Yet cartographers are not licensed, and many map-makers competent in commercial art or the use of computer workstations have never studied cartography. Map users seldom, if ever, question these authorities, and they often fail to appreciate the map's power as a tool of deliberate falsification or subtle propaganda. Because of personal computers and electronic publishing, map users can now easily lie to themselves and be unaware of it. Before the personal computer, folk cartography consisted largely of hand-drawn maps giving directions. The direction giver had full control over pencil and paper and usually had no difficulty transferring routes, landmarks, and other relevant recollections from mind to map. The computer allows programmers, marketing experts, and other anonymous middlemen without cartographic savvy to strongly influence the look of the map, and gives modern-day folk maps the crisp type, uniform symbols, and verisimilitude of maps from the cartographic priesthood. Yet software developers commonly have made it easy for the lay cartographer to select an inappropriate projection or a misleading set of symbols. Because of advances in low-cost computer graphics, inadvertent yet serious cartographic lies can appear respectable and accurate. The potential for cartographic mischief extends well beyond the deliberate suppression used by some cartographic politicians and the electronic blunders made by the cartographically ignorant. If any single caveat can alert map users to their unhealthy but widespread naivety, it is that a single map is but one of an indefinitely large number of maps that might be produced for the same situation or for the same data. The italics reflect an academic lifetime of browbeating undergraduates with this obvious but readily ignored warning. How easy it is to forget, and how revealing to recall that map authors can experiment freely with features, measurements, area of coverage, and symbols, and can pick the map that best presents their case or supports their unconscious bias. Map users must be aware that cartographic license is enormously broad. The purpose of this book is to promote a healthy skepticism about maps, not to foster either cynicism or deliberate dishonesty. In showing how to lie with maps, I want to make readers aware that maps, like speeches and paintings, are authored collections of information and also are subject to distortions arising from ignorance, greed, ideological blindness, or malice. Examining the misuses of maps also provides an interesting introduction to the nature of maps and their range of appropriate uses. Chapter 2 considers as potential sources of distortion the map's main elements: scale, projection, and symbolization. Chapter 3 further pursues the maps of scale by examining the various white lies cartographers justify as necessary generalization. And Chapter 4 looks at common blunders resulting from the mapmaker's ignorance or oversight. Chapter 5 treats the seductive use of symbols in advertising maps, and Chapter 6 explores exaggeration and suppression in maps prepared for developmental plans and environmental impact statements. Chapter 7 and 8 examine distorted maps used by governments as political propaganda and as disinformation for military opponents. The next 2 chapters are particularly relevant to users of mapping software and electronic publishing. Chapter 9 addresses distortion and self-deception in statistical maps made from census data and other quantitative information, and Chapter 10 looks at how a careless or a Machiavellian choice of colors can confuse or mislead the map viewer. Chapter 11 concludes by noting maps' dual and sometimes conflicting roles and by recommending a skeptical assessment of the map author's motives. A book about how to lie with maps can be more useful than a book about how to lie with words. After all, everyone is familiar with verbal lies, nefarious as well as white, and is wary about how words can be manipulated. Our school teach their pupils to be cautious consumers who read the fine print and between the lines, and the public has a guarded respect for advertising, law, marketing, politics, public relations, writing, and other occupations requiring skill in verbal manipulation. Yet, education in the use of maps and diagrams is spotty and limited, and many otherwise educated people are graphically and cartographically illiterate. Maps, like numbers, are often arcane images, accorded undue respect and credibility. This book's principal goal is to dispel this cartographic mystique and promote a more informed use of maps based upon an understanding and appreciation of their flexibility as a medium of communication. The book's insights can be especially useful for those who might more effectively use maps in their work or as citizens fighting environmental deterioration or social ills. The informed skeptic becomes a perceptive map author, better able to describe locational characters and explain geographical relationships, as well as better equipped to recognize and counter the self-serving arguments of biased or dishonest mapmakers. Where a deep distrust of maps reflects either ignorance of how maps work, or a bad personal experience with maps, this book can help overcome an unhealthy skepticism called cartophobia. Maps need be no more threatening or less reliable than words, and rejecting or avoiding or ignoring maps is akin to the mindless fears of illiterates who regard books as evil or dangerous. This book's revelations about how maps must be white lies, but may sometimes become real lies, should provide the same sort of measuring knowledge that allows humans to control and exploit fire and electricity.